Nice Micro Monday. Why I don't really care about the Steam Deck. So the original or long-time viewers of this channel might have heard that I originally switched to Linux. I got interested in Linux because of the YouTube videos I've been watching on the topic, and I switched to Linux because they convinced me that it is just not a good idea to run proprietary software, or at least like a proprietary operating system on your personal computer. So I wanted to switch to a free software alternative, and basically that's the way I am taking a look at this whole thing. I am using Linux because it is a free software operating system, and I'm not using Linux because I have some kind of preference for the Linux brand itself or the ecosystem. Well, I have to admit that the Linux ecosystem is not that bad, but in all seriousness, I still watch many of these YouTubers who introduce me to Linux. I listen to a lot of the content from all these people who are less interested in the free software aspect, but more interested in the whole ecosystem kind of view. So that's how I heard about the Steam Deck. I don't really care much about games and game consoles, so I wouldn't have known about this otherwise. And some people asked for my opinion on it, so I don't really have much. I just don't really care about it, because how I see it is, so people get all excited that it's going to be running Arch Linux. Well, it's not going to be running Arch Linux, it's going to be running an operating system that is derivative of Arch Linux, but in and of itself, I don't really get any excitement from that point of view. Also, we've heard that Valve is encouraging the game developers to just abandon their original Linux binaries, or like the what is it called, like the native Linux binaries. Just let's not develop for that. They want to encourage them to just develop for Windows and just use I think it's called Proton. This is like the Wine-based kind of emulator. That's not really an emulator that translates the Windows system calls into Linux system calls. And well, basically, it is encouraging to use Windows as inferior binary file format compared to the superior ELF binary file format of Linux, because just game developers don't generally optimize for Linux, and also handling dependencies is difficult, and more difficult in Linux. In Windows, you can just you usually just build everything into the binary or support your own DLLs with it. So I guess that's another important thing when you are talking about proprietary software that only the developer can compile, instead of talking about free software that anyone can compile and anyone can update to when newer versions of the dependencies come out. So, and this is kind of the ultimate point by which I lose all my interest in the Steam Deck, because it is just another platform for you to run proprietary software, because most of the games that will be on Steam Deck will be proprietary games, and we all know how proprietary games work. We all know that most of the game industry is just a big bunch of unethical things, like the way they treat their employees is just one of the bad things they do. They also treat their users quite poorly. Let's just not forget how many big game studios put out pre-release games, or like pre-order games, and then they make it possible to pre-order for considerable amount of money, and when the game comes out for the people who pre-order, then it's still quite in a bad state, like a beta version or something. And we also all know how they use these DRM methods that sometimes just make your computer do a lot of useless computations just for you to stop you even thinking about copying it. And we all heard about the stories when some game is actually much faster if you download it from torrent with a cracked version, removing from the DRM. So if you are stealing it, you get a much better experience than the people who actually paid heavy cash for it. So, but you all know my opinion on the game industry. So if it's just another platform to play proprietary games on it, I don't think just because it's going to be running like a Linux-based backend that will actually make people switch to Linux, or even if it does incidentally pique someone's interest in Linux, maybe, it's not really the best reason. But I guess if someone just learns it's a Linux-based device and accidentally also stumble upon free software and get enticed by the free software philosophy, then I guess that's a win maybe for the people who actually care about their own computing. It's more of us as out there. We have a higher weight in convincing companies to actually make their software ethically instead of however they make it. And I guess if you buy a Steam Deck, and I guess it's going to be possible to just exchange the operating system on it, and maybe you can use like a real Linux distribution, like a community-based Linux distro, and maybe you can just use Arch Linux on them and just install your free software games with Pac-Man and just play that instead of using the official or whatever is going to be Valve putting on it. That's going to be interesting. So maybe, but I wouldn't pay for that. So I guess I guess this is it. So. Yeah, so these were all my opinions on the Steam Deck. If you enjoyed this video, subscribe to the channel, give me a thumbs up or something like that, and I will see you next time. Nice Micro Monday, why I don't care about the Steam Deck.